The barrel of a pistol was aimed directly at my child's heart by a man in a fake HOA cop vest. His orders were screamed at my boy, "Get on the ground, now!" My son's small hands were trembling in the air, his face pale with a terror no kid should ever know. But the man holding that gun had no idea who was about to walk into his nightmare. Before we get into how this all unfolded, drop a comment below with where you're tuning in from. To grasp why this could happen, you need the full context. My name is Michael. I serve as a county sheriff, a fact most of my neighbors are unaware of by choice. At home, I'm not the law, I'm just a father. The conflict began with our HOA chairperson, Lydia. It ignited when I declined her unlawful demand to search my garage. It grew when I disputed fines she levied without proper authority. I never raised my voice, I simply cited the actual regulations. Lydia does not handle being challenged well, especially someone she can't push around. So she brought in her own version of enforcement, a private patrol with unofficial badges and uniforms deliberately suggesting official authority. One individual, named Greg, reveled in this borrowed power a little too much. He focused on my son because I was out of his reach. Greg alleged my boy was trespassing near a community marker, a charge he invented on the spot. My child tried to explain, tried to move away. It made no difference. That's when Greg drew his personal firearm and aimed it. And that's the precise moment I arrived on the scene. I was still in uniform, having just finished my shift. A colleague was with me, giving us a ride home. The same quiet street, the same evening light. Until everything shattered. I saw my child first, frozen, arms raised. Then I saw the weapon pointed at him. I was out of the vehicle before I consciously decided to move. "Sheriff's office, drop it!" My deputy's shout echoed mine as we both rushed forward. Greg didn't turn. He didn't lower the gun. His focus stayed on my terrified son. "On your knees," he yelled again, his voice strained with a false sense of control. I saw my son's legs begin to buckle, and something inside me turned to ice. "Do not move!" I roared, my badge now held high, glinting in the light. Greg finally glanced over his shoulder. Confusion flashed. Then pure dread washed over his face as he saw the uniform, the badge, the armed deputy flanking him. "Weapon on the pavement, hands where I can see them," my deputy commanded, his own firearm trained and steady. Greg's arm shook. For a heart-stopping instant, the muzzle drifted downward again. I didn't think. I just moved. I closed the distance, swept my boy behind me, and put my own body between him and the threat. I could feel him clutching the back of my duty shirt, his whole frame quaking. "You're safe," I whispered, my voice tight. "I'm here." Behind us, the situation was resolved with professional speed. The gun hit the asphalt. Greg followed, pressed to the ground and secured in handcuffs. He started weeping into the concrete. I stayed kneeling, holding my son, until his ragged breaths began to slow. Only then did the muffled sobs of relief come. Real sirens approached soon after. Supervisors arrived, and then Lydia showed up. She ducked under the tape, crying out for Greg as if he was the one wrong. He was just doing his job. That boy was violating rules. An officer blocked her path. "Ma'am, your employee aimed a loaded gun at a minor," he stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. I stood up and turned. Our eyes met. I didn't need to say a word. My badge and uniform said everything. In that silent moment, Lydia realized her enforcer had just threatened the sheriff's child. If you're gripped by this story, hit that like button and subscribe to Winds of Thought, because the fallout was even staggering. Lydia was silenced immediately at the scene. She attempted to argue, to twist HOA policy into a defense for this insanity. She was ordered to step back. Greg was led away, his gaze hollow. The firearm was processed. It was registered to him personally, a civilian, illegally impersonating authority while armed. That detail became critical. Medics checked my son. "Watch him closely," one of them advised softly. "The shock can surface later." I knew. That night, after my son finally slept, the phone began to ring. The first call was from the district attorney. "We're taking this federal," she said. "Civil rights, assault with a deadly weapon on a minor, impersonation, unlawful imprisonment. The charges are stacking." Internal Affairs called, the county council called, a civil attorney called. By sunrise, the picture was clear. Greg was formally charged with multiple felonies: aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, endangering a child, impersonating an officer, and more. At his hearing, the judge denied bail without hesitation. "You pointed a firearm at a child. You will remain in custody," she declared. Lydia's downfall was more methodical. Investigators tore through HOA records. They discovered Greg wasn't alone. He was just the most violent. Lydia had authorized an unlicensed security team, approved deceptive uniforms, and endorsed strong-arm tactics. She knew he carried a gun. That knowledge ensnared her completely. Within days, she was arrested at her home. Conspiracy, aiding and abetting, reckless endangerment. The list was long. The entire HOA board collapsed and resigned within the week. Then the lawsuits arrived. The county provided for my son's counseling. The HOA's insurance denied coverage for criminal acts, so the civil judgment fell on Lydia personally. Her assets, her savings, everything was gone. Greg accepted a plea deal much later. 15 years in state prison, a lifetime ban on firearms, and never to work in security again. Lydia stood trial. She was convicted and sentenced to 22 years with massive restitution to pay. My son still flinches at raised voices. He still touches my belt to confirm my badge is there before we go out. And whenever we pass that spot on the street, he holds my hand tight and says, "You came." I tell him every single time, I will always come. That is how a man playing cop with a gun learned the ultimate lesson. Real authority can't be sewn onto a vest, and your power evaporates when you target the wrong family.